Hello friends, welcome to Do Better Tomorrow. This is Ishak. Hope you're all doing well. Here we are with a video on reading comprehension practice session number 1. Right? And we have already discussed an approach to do reading comprehensions in a better way. If you haven't watched that video on our approach, please do watch that video. Then it will be easier for you to crack reading comprehensions. And here we are going to discuss a memory based reading comprehension which was asked in an SBI exam. So it will be easy for you to understand what kind of questions they will be asking in your particular exam. Like if it is a clerical exam, what difficulty level they ask, and if it is a PO level exam, what difficulty level they ask. If it is an SSC exam, what kind of reading comprehension they ask. That will be easy if you solve the memory based papers. And this is a memory based SBI clerical paper, right? Let's see. And we should know the approach first of all, right? What is that approach? We'll not start reading the passage first, right? Level 0, step 0 is there, then step 1 and step 2. So first of all, know that approach, and you can watch that separate video on our approach, right? Let's start now. So first of all, we'll start with the directions, and here it is mentioned like directions from 1 to 7. Read the given passage carefully and answer the questions that follow. Certain words are printed in bold to help you locate them while answering some of these. So which tells that there are 7 number of questions, and there are also some synonym antonym questions, right? So out of those 7, maybe 1 or 2 comes from your vocabulary, and remaining will be on the passage, right? Those 6 or 5 or 6 may be again author related titles, whatever it is. So what to do next? First of all, we'll start reading the questions. Let's see. Question number 1. Which of the following is the source of the revenue which goes into the budget? So immediately a thought struck on my mind is like this question is something related to finance or economy. So something related to budget. And I'm not just noting that word, the meaning, like source of revenue which goes into budget, right? Revenue sources, and which revenue sources going into budget. That is a question. Then the second question, which of the following are the functions of Department of Expenditure, right? And here also we'll be seeing 1, 2, 3 also. 1, assessing the revenues from different central taxes, assessment of expenditure estimates for the current and the next year for various expenditure heads, and 3, assessing the resources of the public sector undertakings. So what we need to remember is the functions of Department of Expenditure. So when we spoke about economy, and here we are speaking about Department of Expenditure, in the sense some government department, right? So it is related to our nation's economy or government related thing, something like that. Are you clear with this? 2 questions. Then the third question is, what does the term revenue deficit mean? Yes, there is simple question to remember, and this is like a definition of revenue deficit. Yes. Then question number 4, what according to the passage do people do to fulfill their needs after they run out of their budget? Yes, is it clear? Like people will have some budget, so this is not only about the budget or economy of a nation, but also something related to the budget of common man, right? Something is mentioned in the passage like that. So what do people do to fulfill their wants after they run out of their budget? Simple question to remember. Then next question, how did the year 1978 become a benchmark with respect to central government's budget, right? We have already mentioned that it is something related to government kind of thing. So here it is again mentioned, central government's budget 1978 was a benchmark year. So how did that happen? Why did that 1978 was a benchmark year with respect to central government's budget, right? We have seen all 5 questions, and the 6th question, yes, it is a synonym question, more similar in meaning, in the sense synonym. So it is a word highlighted in the passage is aids, so it's more similar meaning word we need to find. Then the question number 7, the last question, because we already know there are 7 questions, right? Which of the following is the most opposite in meaning to the given word. So to interim, what is the most opposite word? So now we know all 7 questions. 5 questions on the passage, no questions on author related or title of the passage, these kind of questions were not there, and 2 on synonym and antonyms. So those 5 questions should be there on your mind, in your temporary memory. Like if it is in your regional language, or if you are very strong with your English and the terminologies, all the things, all 5 questions should be very thorough. Just pause the video here and try to recollect all those 5, because this is the first reading comprehension you are practicing in the new approach, right? So what you need to do is just pause the video and just recollect all the 5 questions what you just read now or just listened now. Yes, pause the video. Yes, hope you have all remembered all the questions. Even if you are not doing well with that approach, no problem. This is the first reading comprehension session, so no problem with that. By practice of number of reading comprehensions, surely you will get that. But this is the best approach in my view, right? Now let's start reading the passage. So the first and most important step to effective financial planning is developing and implementing a budget. That of course sounds easy and even simplistic, but it's more difficult than it seems. Budgeting simply means to live within one's financial means. You have a limited amount of money to spend each month, so you need to separate your needs from your wants. Your needs usually include so and so, which is not required. Once your needs are taken care of, any remaining money can go to unnecessary wants, those items that are nice to have, like TV, cable TV, internet service. See why I am reading something fast here, kind of TV, internet service, right? Food, clothing. Why I have skipped here is because nothing was mentioned about that in the passage, right? What he has asked about the common people thing is, what is that when they go out of their budget, then what they do. But this is all what they have mentioned here is like what is need and what is, see what is needs and what is the include, what is this, the needs, our needs, this is what they have mentioned. Then you need to be careful not to confuse with wants and needs, all these are which are not required, right? So when we know that, what we do is we'll just skip reading those, or we'll just make it fast. A very common reason people get into serious debt is by failing to live within their means. They use credit to supplement their wants, but eventually this will cause financial trouble. So this is giving some hint, right? Let's see. Like our family budget, the nation's general budget has 2 major parts. So he has started with some introduction like our family's thing, like there are some needs and wants, something like that. Then he's just relating it with the nation's budget, like they are having 2 different parts, one is revenue and the other is expenditure. Let's continue reading, because we did not find the any of the exact answers, right? So let's continue reading, no problem. Assessing the revenues from different central taxes is the primary function of Department of Revenue, and the expenditure estimates from the current and the next year for various expenditure heads are assessed by, yes, we have got something like assessed by Department of Expenditure. The Department of Expenditure also assesses, right? So we need to know what are the functions of Department of Expenditure, because that was one of the questions, right? So now we'll start doing that particular question. So again we'll not continue reading, just by knowing this, right? Immediately we'll answer that particular question. Yes, let's do that. So what are the functions of Department of Expenditure? We know that Department of Expenditure estimates for the current and next year for the various expenditure heads assessed by the department, and also assesses the resources of the public sector undertakings. Yes, let's answer that. So which option? Assessing the revenues from different central taxes, assessment of expenditure estimates for the current, right? 2 is there. And we need to also check 3, assessing the resources of the public sector undertakings. Yes, so both 2 and 3, which is option D is my answer. Right, then we'll continue reading that. The finance secretary coordinates the overall budget making process. All of them keep the finance ministry informed and seek directions from time to time. The chief economic advisor aids the concerned. Right, there is some again question on our synonyms, like the chief economic advisor aids the concerned departmental officer in this process, which means aids in the sense helps, right? The chief economic advisor helps. So what we do, we'll just answer that question. So aids, most similar meaning, which is synonym we require. So amplifies, assists. Assists would be the appropriate one, most appropriate and most similar thing, right? So we'll continue reading that again. So the chief economic advisor aids the concerned departmental officer in this process. Leaving aside the tax receipts, the other sources of revenue which go into the budget. So even this is our question, right? Which goes into our budget are the dividends paid by the PSU on the government shareholdings, including the interim dividends and the capital receipts on the account of the divestment of the government shareholdings. Right, besides external receipts on account borrowing from international agencies. No, not required. This and all is not required, right? So what we know is now, first question which we know, which of the following is a source of the revenue which goes into the budget, right? And we know that tax receipt, yes. Capital receipts on account of the divestment of the government shareholdings. Let's see that again if we have doubt, because in exam both the things will be on one thing. Your passage will be on your left and your question will be on your right. So when immediately when you got some answer, we'll just check again with those options, right? Here it is the bit difficult, it is bit a difficulty here, but in exam the interface will be very easy. Like left side will be your passage and right side will be your questions, right? The interface there will be easy, so that you can again check that and you can answer, right? So tax receipt, capital receipt, divestment of the government shareholdings, yes. Dividends paid by the PSU on, yes. So more than one option, and there is no combination of options like 1 and 2, 2 and 3. So again no need of wasting time, it is all of these. Then the next question, which of the following is the most opposite, right? Here itself we got a question about our opposite, like antonym question, most opposite to interim. So we know about interim budgets, right? If you're not sure, this word tells that, see, before, in every 5 years when a government is being changed, there will be an interim budget, because the old government cannot fix a budget to the whole financial year, right? So what it does is, for those 3 years the interim budget will be released, which means that it is not a permanent one. So opposite thing what we require will be a permanent, right? Clear? Then next question is, now we'll continue there. For the expenditure side, various ministries providing initial estimates of plan and non-plan expenditures. The ministries discuss with the plan expenditures. The planning commission allocates after the estimation of income and expenditure, yes. And then we'll continue reading. And revenue deficit indicates the, yes, revenue deficit indicates the excess of expenditure or receipts in the revenue budget of the government, right? Revenue deficit means the government is not able to finance its day by day expenses, or what we call the current expenditure, out of its normal revenue sources like taxes. Yes, is it clear about what is revenue deficit? Because we need, what does the term revenue deficit means, which means we need the definition, right? So what is that? The government fails to take care of, what we have seen, the government fails to, right? We have already seen that the government fails, not able to finance its day to day expenses, in the sense it fails to take care of its daily expenses to the revenue sources like taxes, right? So that is what is revenue deficit. Let's continue. Then from where we stopped is, like, till here we have already read. And in India, the central government's budget had a surplus until 1977, but in 1978 budget revenue deficit appeared for the first time? Right, this is also a question. So what happened in 1978? Revenue deficit appeared for the first time. Since then there is a revenue deficit in all the years, and the government is borrowing to the finance the revenue deficit. Right, this is what is happening. 1978, the first time revenue deficit has appeared. Since then there is revenue deficit in all the years, and government is borrowing to finance the revenue deficit. Yes, so it is very clear, right? Revenue deficit, which means that government is not able to finance its day-to-day expenses. Right, what happens in our lives, that is why they related with the government. Will be running out of the budget and will not have money for our day-to-day expenses. Same way, even our government will not be able to finance its day-to-day expenses. So that is what is revenue deficit. And then it happened for the first time in 1978, and since then revenue deficit in all the years happened, and government is borrowing to finance the revenue deficit. So when we are out of money, what we do, we'll borrow money from others, we'll take credits from others. That is what even government is doing, and from 1978, since then it is keep on going like that. That is what he's mentioning. In all the years government is borrowing to finance the revenue deficit. Yes, so let's see this question. How did the 1978 become a benchmark? Is the budget in this year accounted for the extraordinary? No. Finance budget is not presented? No. Revenue deficit. India saw the revenue deficit for the first time in the, this is the option what we require. Yes, since then and this, the revenue deficit occurred in all the years. Yes, it is very clear. Then increasing borrowing, interest payments, revenue deficit, borrowing explains the vicious circle of debt for the government, which means this is happening like a cycle, right? Vicious circle in the sense, the circle which happens, it's keep on going like that, like a cycle, right? First of all we'll borrow, for that again for the what we borrowed we'll take again, we'll pay interest, again that creates a revenue deficit, for that again we take a borrowing. So it happens as a cycle. That is what it is trying to say. In this way, interest payment became the largest expenditure item for the government. A high revenue deficit gives a warning signal, so and so, right? And we need to know that here completely it is about revenue deficit is a gap between, right? This is what we require. See, you need to know how to skip things also, right? What is our next thing is, what according to the passage do people do to fulfill their wants after they run out of their budget? Yes, this is the only question left. We are very aware of that. So what people do to fulfill their wants after they run out of the budget? And only thing where we seen about people is in the first paragraph. Other than that, it is completely about government. See, all this awareness should be there. Your presence of mind helps you a lot in your reading comprehension. See, that is what happened to me. Now what I am saying is, in the only in the first paragraph they have mentioned something about people's budget, of a common man budget, will run out of money, will go and take credits, right? This is what happens in a common man. After that, what happened? Everything about government's budget. So when we talk about this particular question, this should be in the first paragraph. So let's see the options once. People tend to confuse between needs and wants and end up converting their needs into wants. Yes, this was mentioned. And people work hard to and try to earn more to fulfill their wants, which becomes their need. Yes, this was also there. But people take credits to fulfill their wants, right? This is what is the question actually was. Passage, what according to the passage do people do to fulfill their wants after running out of budget? What do? They take credits. This is what is important. So this is our answer. Yes, so this is how we'll answer our questions on reading comprehensions. Though the interface was not very clear and accurate, you can get a better interface in your exams. Like for on your left there will be a passage given, on your right the questions will be given, but the approach what we discussed should be the same. Once you read all the questions, you should remember those questions with the context in that, and then we'll start reading the passage. When we find some relevant context, we'll answer the questions, right? Though you found some difficulty here, the interface will not be the same in your exam, right? You know that. So start practicing in this way of your reading comprehension. We'll try to bring more reading comprehension memory based questions so that you can practice more for your SBI exams. Yes, thank you for watching.